Guys, I'm super honored, and it's a great pleasure to have Aishwarya today on the Evolve with Titan series. Hi Aishwarya.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And Aishwarya, I've been following you for a year now, and then I know you do so many things. So I want you to tell me, how do you introduce yourself to people? Like what do you do?
An art and design educator, and I'm a Silambam practitioner. These are the two core areas of my life. Work-wise, I founded and I run Maisha Studio, which is an art and design education studio. I also guest lecture and go in as a visiting faculty to Loyola and NIFT and a few other universities. But the core within all of this is art, design, and creativity. So that's what I do.
So that's you realize that's not a straightforward thing, right?
In my mind, I feel like it's straightforward. It's creativity with different media.
So how does doing this multitude of things help you as a creative person?
I keep thinking once we realize and understand and experience the potential of what 24 hours can be, there's no way in which we will want to do anything lesser. I know that the satisfaction that I get is because of the impact that I'm able to create through the work that I do. So then with all of these different activities, it's just about making time to do the things that you want to do rather than trying to find time in between in nooks and corners.
So I can so relate to that. I always tell people I'm in the business of happiness. I do whatever makes me happiness. So that's why I find so many things that really makes me happy. But can you go to the next level? That is, you said, when you say, okay, what are the things that you can do in 24 hours, right? You'll end up doing so many things. But yes, everybody has 24 hours, and how are some people able to do so many things? And some people are not, or some people are finding it hard.
I believe the basis for this is skill development, because there has to be a certain curiosity and a first step forward that we take in order to go and experience new things. If I am doing Silambam now, or if I am going and working out in the gym, or if I'm cycling, or if I'm trekking, it's because at some point of time I took that first step into the unknown to try it out. And then when I tried it out and when I picked up the skill, I realized this is something that I enjoy doing. So I feel that the process is very organic in that sense, that every day or every time we have a new experience, we identify what it is that we like to do. But then for that to happen, you need to take the first step of going out there. I think that you and I are similar in that sense, because we are constantly exposing ourselves to so many new experiences. Even though we are working professionals, we're constantly going and watching performances, we're exposing ourselves to the arts, we want to learn new skills, and this is what gives us the ingredients to then fill up the day with activities. And then it happens in an organic manner, in the sense that you've been able to develop skills that allow you to do different activities, because without skills we're stuck. I mean, I can go and work 9 to 5 because that's a skill that I have, but apart from that, what else, so that first step to pick up skills and then build up on it.
So two things out of that. So one is I really believe that you have to develop that sense of curiosity. When you become curious about things, then you want to go find more about it, learn more about it, and then that's how you go to the next step. So curiosity is the first step. But see, for somebody who's watching out there, who is already struggling to take that first step, right, and who's also telling himself or herself, sitting in front of the computer, she might have been like this from birth, right? So were you like this from birth, from your childhood, or if you were not, when did it start? How did it start?
I think the process of a person evolving and developing in terms of character is a lifelong, never-ending process. So I was definitely not like this from the time I was a kid. Every single element of my life right now has been built up through effort and hard work and struggles. So during my undergraduation at Madras University, and I was blessed to have a few really good mentors who guided me and who gave me that push for me to understand that just doing one course or just taking care of the requirements of one course is not enough, and that we are capable of so much more. So I think that was the very first push that I got in my life, wherein I realized the importance of going and taking up workshops, or just going for art exhibitions, or going for film screenings, and try to see what is happening in the city that I can experience and learn from. So that was the first step. And from there onwards, once we understand how interesting and how insightful these experiences can get, then you would not want to sit at home. Right now, sitting at home and watching TV is not exciting enough for me, because I know that even in Chennai there are so many amazing things that are happening. So then your mind takes control over everything else, saying you can't like sit in one place.
Yeah, and not only that, so many people have to understand these are the raw materials for many more things to happen. Not only your curiosity is the first step, and then you step out and say and then go to places which interest you, and then find people who are like-minded. Then you find a community.
Absolutely.
Then you get into that community, develop a community for yourself, and then you might find a mentor there.
Very
so many
true.
things happen through that. Like you might find a new project, and
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It takes effort. You need to be proactive, and you need to take the steps that you need to take. And here, I think the other important point is that sometimes that first step might happen. The first step is easy. You push yourself and you just do it. But then how do you stick on, right? You take up a course, you learn a skill, you find it interesting, then what? I think there comes the really important part, which is commitment. Do you have that in you, or are you able to discipline your mind and body enough to be committed to an activity that you take up? So that's the second step. You can be curious, and then you go out and you experience these things, and then opportunities will reveal and come forth. But then again, you need to make it work.
True. But see, for somebody who is starting out, right, and then I've had this question many times, and even in our case, there are so many things in front of us which is exciting, right? And as a person who wants to do multiple things, how do you cling on to one thing, or how do you focus on one thing, or does it disturb your focus?
A lot of people feel that when you do a bunch of different and diverse activities, it means that you're distracted, or the popular term of being a jack of all trades. First of all, I don't believe in that term at all, and the reason being, I feel that when we are working with diverse activities, in a very innate and intrinsic sense, we are all multidimensional in nature. And that's something that I very, very firmly believe in, and I keep talking about it very often. We're not meant to be single track. The human mind is not meant to be single track, and it's natural for us to have multiple interests and tendencies. So what happens in my case is that I feel every experience and every activity actually feeds in and strengthens the other, rather than it pulling each other apart. Silambam gives me a lot of inspiration and ideas and thought processes with regards to my art and design practice. And it's because of the fact that I come from an art and design background that I feel I'm able to see and enjoy Silambam in a way that's different from how other people have been able to see the art form. So it's all of these different elements coming together that makes me me, and that's a strength rather than a weakness.
It's very interesting that you bring up that multifaceted and multidimensional thing, right? I realize that very lately we are all, because we are always told this, focus on one thing and do one thing, right? I don't believe in that. I want to be doing multiple things. Yes, you should not multitask too many things, but I love working on multiple things. At a time, I want to be working on 3 or 4 things. That gives me a kick.
Yeah.
That makes me really, that gives me a high. And also as people or as a personality, we are multi-dimensional, right? At one place we are, this angry, this very different headmasterish thing when I'm in like with the team sometimes, and then I go, I'm a very different person with the family, and like we are all actually multi-dimensional. That's interesting, but like I said, my thing is, okay, I have so many of these things in front of me, but since you are from an art background and all that, you got this sense of liking, right? But now, if somebody is starting out and if they are very young, how do they cling on to that few things or one thing to go to the next level? How do they not get confused?
There's this popular Japanese concept called ikigai, which is a philosophy and a concept that I connect with in many ways. And it's interesting because it also comes in line with self-actualization, which is right on top of the pyramid in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in a way, it's very simple. It's just you trying to be whatever it is that you're capable of being as your ultimate aim. And Ikigai talks about finding your purpose in life, being finding an activity that you love to do, that you're good at doing, that the world needs, and that you get paid for.
Right.
And I think this is a very interesting way to look at how we can kind of hold on to activities that keep us going on a day-to-day basis. Because at the end of the day, we can have passion, we can have interest, but there's also the business side to things. We have to make a living for ourselves. Not everything can be a hobby. We have to make a living as well, right? So then you need to look at it in a more holistic manner in terms of, are you good at it? And in that process of trying out a lot of different experiences and activities, you will realize what it is that you have a natural tendency towards. Now here again, I don't think there's any job in the world where we are 100% comfortable and confident about everything that we do,
True,
right?
true,
We're a decade into our professional career and I'm not 100% confident and comfortable with every single thing that is put forth to me. But isn't that what keeps us going? Because then it's a new challenge and we keep learning more and more to move forward from there. So to start with, I think step by step, step 1, be curious. Step 2, get out of bed and do something.
Yeah, do something.
Try things out, make or experience different scenarios. And then through that process, I think it's really important to reflect what is it that is creating a spark, like you said, within me. And I think the satisfaction that I get through education, because I know that I'm able to mold minds and create a difference, or the fact that I'm able to raise awareness through Silambam, is a huge boost for me to keep doing what I do. So I've realized that through reflection. And
honesty, right? And honesty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, we are all very, very honest and critical about ourselves as an individual. And that's where the next step lies. The conversation that you have with yourself at the end of the day. Did I like what I did today? What did I learn from it? What else can I do with it? So it's curiosity and then doing something as far as skill development is concerned. Reflect on it and then eventually see how you can build it to an extent where, like the concept of ikigai, can you make a business model out of it and make a living out of what you enjoy doing.
But Aishwarya, help me to help people here. See, in a value-driven, in a result-driven market or a society that we live in, okay, if I do this, let's say in your case, Aishwarya has done Silambam and she has become super popular now. Okay, I'm going to put my kid in Silambam, or I'm going to do Silambam so I can be Aishwarya Manivannan one day, right? In a result-oriented society or the way we have grown up, where we are always driven towards results. Okay, if I do engineering, I'll be placed in an IT company. If I study MBBS, then I'll be a doctor, right? So in this, how do we, like, we have realized this over time, over effort, whatever it is. So how do we inspire people about taking the journey and not think about the results? Like, how do I tell a guy who is coming to me and saying, sir, if I buy this camera, can I become a good photographer, right? How do I inspire him and tell him, hey, that is not the thing. Actually making the pictures is what I am doing. And then all this becoming successful and money and all that is a byproduct. Yeah. Like, what would be your way to inspire somebody to think about the journey and not the results?
So, in the present day scenario, I feel that this whole way of thinking is changing in terms of being result oriented. Just because you get an engineering degree does not mean you're going to be able to get a good job. Even if you get an MBBS, it does not mean that you're going to be successful in life. That was probably the case 10 years ago. Okay. But it's no longer that way with the advent of technology and everything from virtual reality to artificial intelligence. Every role is being questioned now. And that is something that we need to get people to think about as a first step. Be more internal in developing your skills and becoming the best that you can be, rather than focusing on that's a job that I want to get into or that's the pay that I want to get, because by the time you finish your course, that job may not even be there. Right now we might be talking about a particular job, but 6 months later it may not be a need anymore.
True. In that sense only, I always have this doubt how a system of schooling that worked like 100 years ago, when we had like factories and all that, is working now. It's
not working.
It's functional now, right? And also see, like always, I always tell, see, the people who come to us to hire us have more information than what we have, right? The consumer has more information than the seller now. Likewise, like if you say 60, 70 years ago, there were very few learned people. They all got together in a place, a school. Then everybody wanted to come. It was like Gurukul, right? Gurukul now, the teacher was learned person, and he was one of the very few people around. So he was stationed in one place, and then everybody came in. Now the information is out everywhere, and how is this still the same system functional, right? So I really don't believe in that. I in fact feel it's the school is a graveyard for our creativity, right?
The good thing here is that there are a lot of alternate learning systems and education systems that are developing now. I think when we compare ourselves with 10 years ago, a lot more parents are aware of how redundant the education system is, which means that we are moving towards a lot of new learning systems and education systems where the focus is not really just on bookish knowledge or marks, but again coming back to skills. because the future lies with skills, you know. I keep coming up with this, the only metaphor that keeps popping up in my mind is, you know, how in Hindu, so some Hindu gods and goddesses, we have multiple hands, and every hand will be holding a different tool. That's important. We need to equip ourselves with multiple tools and multiple skills in order to place ourselves in a position where we are confident and comfortable about the changing world.
Oh, so true. People see, in my case, people think that, okay, I have picked up a camera and then I can take good pictures, then I become photographer. No, right? See, like going back to the factory analogy, when you were a white collar job person, when you studied the degree and then got into white collar job, you were given, okay, you are a salesperson, right? You are a coder. You take care of marketing, right? But now we are all moving towards this creative field where people are taking on their own.
Yeah.
So now they have to do everything. Like you said, it's like the Hindu god with multiple things. You have to be a marketer, you have to be a salesperson, you have to be to everybody, right?
There was actually a recent research study that was undertaken where the result showed how in the present day scenario and in the future, it's important for everybody to be able to think like an entrepreneur. See, you are an entrepreneur, I am an entrepreneur, so our mind always works in multiple tracks. It's not enough if we're just, you know, having a very romanticized view of how the business works, because at the end of the day, we have to make it work, right? But in the future, it's going to turn in such a way that most of our jobs are going to be taken over by technology. And creativity is one of the greatest gifts that the human intelligence has been, you know, given over evolution. And that is where our strength is going to lie in the future. So if you're going to focus on jobs and getting into one set role, it might work for the next 1 year or 3 years or 5 years maybe, but 10 years down the line, that job or that particular role may not even exist. So I think the way in which we see this and the way of thinking that we present to students and young adults should change. We need to talk about skill development and getting them to develop their skills to be the best according to their capability. Then automatically they will be able to excel in different roles that they get into.
Yeah, another interesting thing that I had, you know, the day that we spoke over phone, a guy comes to me for an advice and he says, he has run out of options, so many options. Now he wants something very quick, right? And I asked him what's his age. Before asking that, I basically told him you should take up some proper art course before getting into this, because you are in that situation. His situation was like that. But the answer from him was, I don't have time now. I have to do something, and I'm already 23. And I was like, what? So I want you to share your journey on Silambam, and through this tell the world that, you know, you should really not be scared of starting anytime, right? It's never too late.
Yeah.
So tell us your journey in Silambam. Where did you start, and then where are you now?
Okay. I started Silambam when I was around 23, 24 years old. I did not start when I was 5 years old or 6 years old, though a lot of people think that I started when I was a kid. And sometimes I wish I had started when I was a kid, which means I would have had that many more years of training. But Silambam happened by chance because I restarted my Bharatanatyam classes after a 10-year break. And when I started Bharatanatyam again, my guru was talking about how traditional martial arts can help in improving dance, body language and posture and perfection. So I started looking up what are the options for traditional martial arts in Chennai. And that was when I was introduced to Pandian Master and Silambam. I didn't know much about it at all. And that was at a time when I was running my own business, and I was heading the Department of Visual Arts in an international school, and I was going in as a visiting faculty to 2 other universities. So I was basically juggling between 4 jobs, and
Wow.
I was going for Bharatanatyam classes as well, and I had this new activity that kind of came forward in my life. So at the end of the day, I always believe that if you want to do something, you need to make time to do it. I don't believe in the concept of finding time. So then I used to finish my Silambam classes in the morning before the rest of my work day begins. And about the first 1 year, 1.5 years, it's challenging, of course, because you have long work days, and then your body is tired in the morning where your muscles are sore, but it's being able to push yourself and get out of bed.
Right, but this is also some challenges that are commonly spoken about. But you know, the more challenging part is when you pick up something at that age, right? And then when you're a kid, you pick up, you drop the stick, you don't think much of it, right? And then but at 23 or at 30, when you're practicing, and then you're like, you flunk so badly in it, you were like, oh my god, I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this, right?
Yeah.
You have to fight that feeling.
Yeah.
That is more challenging than the pain, the physical pain and all that. Yeah.
Fear is a constant. Just like how change is a constant, I think fear is constant, and your fears keep changing with
True.
the way in which we develop. For me personally, I've always been obsessed with learning. Like if I don't keep learning something new all the time, I get very restless, you know. So that I think is also something that the art and design field has taught me, because we need to be curious and keep learning new things constantly. So then, of course, like sometimes I've had situations where there would be one technique which I would have taken 3 years to learn, and I would see a 7-year-old kid who would have picked it up in 15 minutes, and I'm just like, oh god, I wish that was me. But it's challenging in a way, but that also becomes a form of encouragement or motivation, because then you want to achieve, you want to get it right. And age is absolutely no factor in anything that we do in our life. I think we're in the 21st century. Gender, age, geographical location, none of these are points that we should even be talking about. None of this should come in the way of us doing what we want to do. You know, a lot
True.
of people say, oh, at this age, why do you want to do Silambam and all? Why can't you just like go for a swim and, you know, just relax? You're going to be outdoor, you're going to get hurt. But that's not what you think about when you are going in and learning a new art form. And for me, the fact that Silambam is more than 3,000 years old, and the origin is right here in our own land. And for me, that's almost like an adrenaline, you know, that I'm able to experience an art form that's so ancient in the present day scenario, and to think about the journey that Silambam has gone through as well, and that it is going through, that I am a witness of. It's an amazing experience. So I've seen people from 5 years old to 72 years old starting Silambam, and it's just about showing up and giving it a shot. Once you do it, that child in you is always there. It might be dormant for some people, but the child in us is always there. And then you realize that you're actually having a lot of fun learning something new. So I've seen children and parents starting to learn together, and it's such a wonderful way to bond as well. So in that sense, Silambam has taught me a lot, not just in terms of the art form, but constantly learning something new, you know. About 8-9 months after I started Silambam, I had a fall, and it was a freak accident, but I ended up with a spinal fracture, and I was in bed for about 3 months, 3.5 months, I was bedridden, and then I had a back brace for another 3-4 months. And it was a trying time, but it also gave me a lot of time and space to think about what I was doing with my time. I was doing a lot at that time. I used to trek, I used to cycle, I was traveling, I had all of the jobs that I was doing. I was in Bharatanatyam and Silambam. There was a lot that I was juggling between. But then I realized that Silambam, Bharatanatyam, they're both oceans of knowledge. And I felt that it's important and it makes more sense for me to pick one and do justice to it. So that was when I decided to focus on Silambam instead of splitting my time between Bharatanatyam and Silambam. And I'm so glad I took that decision, because I feel that I'm able to do more for the art form. Apart from learning, I'm also able to give back.
So where are you now in the journey?
Silambam is a lifelong process of learning, like any other art form. But over the last few years, it's been such an amazing experience, challenging, satisfying, joyful. There's so much of a roller coaster of emotions and experiences that I've gone through. Apart from having had the honor of representing India in international championships, national championships, and winning medals, and being the flag bearer of the Indian contingent, which is still like a dream come true. It feels very surreal to think about that moment. Apart from all of the sport related activities that I have been a part of in Silambam, my core intention with Silambam is to really bring more awareness to the potential that the art form has. So I've been taking Silambam to stages across the world. I've been doing lecture demonstrations, workshops, collaborating with other artists as well, to show that this is an ancient art form, but it does have a very, very strong and clear relevance in the contemporary context. Not just as a martial art form, but as a form of physical fitness, as a sport, and in a way, a form of meditation as well.
True,
so
very true.
In all of these ways, Silambam has given me a lot, and I'm just in the initial stages of trying to do something for the art form as well.
Amazing. Amazing. So, do you have like I'm a daily guy. I'm a daily ritual guy, right? Like I believe in my sunrise walks. I believe in exercising, so that in a way helps me to be creative. So do you have any ritual that you think personally, because I do this, I feel it helps me to be creative? Do you have anything like that?
I live by to-do lists. I feel writing things down, planning. I journal, but it's more lists rather than a daily journal, because I feel, especially for people like us, where we do a lot of different things, my students keep bullying me that I have an OCD in terms of being organized with what I do, So to-do lists make me very happy, and that's something that I do every day. There are to-do lists everywhere around me, and it also gives a certain level of systematic organization with everything that we do. Because when we're working on a lot of different activities, it's very easy sometimes to get carried away by so many things happening at the same time. So for me, the key is being able to compartmentalize your time. When I'm in the middle of one activity, I cannot be thinking about what I'm going to do next, or the rest of the day. If I am working with my students, I need to focus on that particular activity at that moment. If I'm practicing Silambam and if I'm thinking about my class next, I'm going to end up hitting myself. So being able present to compartmentalize, and that as the first step to being present at the moment, helps us focus in whatever it is that we are doing. So to-do lists, for sure, that's a no, there is absolutely no way I can imagine my life without to-do lists. The other is taking breaks at at intervals, because even though we're doing something that we love to do and there are a lot of exciting things happening, somewhere, someplace, it's really important for us to stop and reflect on what we're doing on a regular basis. And this is something that helps me a lot. For me, I seek refuge in the mountains. I love trekking and I love peace and quiet. So I think it's important for us to consciously take breaks, to kind of move away and review what we are doing in a different perspective. So then we're able to take a step back and look at it. Even when we're making a piece of art, this is a common technique, You look at it so close and you look at it a certain way. You step 5 feet back and it looks completely different. So I think these are two important aspects for me. One in terms of a day-to-day activity, and the other as a periodic.
Yeah. So how do you meter that, or how do you make sure that nothing is lost? So let's say, okay, you have a to-do list for the year, right? And then you have a to-do list for a day, week. So if you don't finish some of the things in this week, like how do you make sure those gets on to the next week?
So if we do this on a day-to-day basis, you're constantly looking at it, right?
Because so it's in your notebook.
It's because then it's on your mind when you're constantly looking at, okay, what are all the different things that I need to do today. It's on your mind, and subconsciously you're thinking about it. And of course, most of these have deadlines attached to it. If it is something that I'm working on in terms of my personal progress, then there isn't really like an explicit deadline given, but it's more a personal deadline that I've given, and it might happen much earlier. It might take a lot longer. But I think the idea is to work on something on a day-to-day basis. On certain days, you might not be able to do something physically, but still, if you're thinking about it, that's effort in itself. So if you want to do something, you need to think about it and work on it on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of times when somebody asks me, can you define a perfect day in your work life? And I say, if I'm able to check off everything in my to-do list, then it's an amazing day.
Which happens?
It happens when it's a really long to-do list, and when everything is the best day ever. So
nice.
And it's also a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day, right? You've set certain goals and you've been able to meet it, or if you haven't, then you're able to reflect on it and work on it the next day.
True, very true. And I frequently journal, and then whenever I'm doing it, I'm like super efficient. That has really helped me. And that's why I am also in the process of designing my own journal.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah. So something that I wanted to ask you was there a time in your life when you really felt, okay, I am a creative person, or was it something that you all know from a very long time, from childhood? How was it after you realized it, after you acknowledged it? And is it very important that you acknowledge it?
I think that going through that whole process of having a certain type of school education and then moving into college, where I started experiencing what it feels like to do something that you like to do, and having mentors who gave me that push to go in and learn other skills and all of that. I think that process got the ball rolling in terms of my journey as a creative. And then it was a combination of experiences, people that I've met, challenges that I've faced, a lot of fear and apprehension. So it has been a process. Every experience till date, I think, like I was telling you before, every single experience on a day-to-day basis makes me understand myself as a creative. And at the end of the day, I think that is what I enjoy the most, and that is what keeps me going with everything that I do. Because the more and more we experience that, it's like an adrenaline. where we understand a different aspect of our creativity.
Yeah, I ask this because so many people are not acknowledging the fact that they are creative. They're thinking that creativity is something that is, for some people, right? Some bunch who are lucky enough and all that, right? But in a sense, everybody is creative.
Yeah, I believe
and there's
that.
creativity in everything that you do. Even if you're like a coder, right? You can be creative in your coding. And it's everywhere. So even with our mom who makes this amazing dishes, one day she makes a little tweak with the creativity, and then that comes out really well, right? So that's why I wanted to bring out the fact that even with me, I always grew up with people telling me I'm not a creative person, right? Nobody told me that I'm creative, or I didn't know that I was creative. I always thought that I'm born to be an engineer. I am an engineer, right? Until very recently, when I found out that I am creative and I acknowledge that I am creative, there was a like 180-degree shift on my thinking. The way I work, the output, everything was different when I acknowledged that, okay, I am also creative. So that's why I was very curious about how this process was.
So one, for sure, I believe very, very firmly that every one of us are creative. It's something that we're born with. So there's absolutely no question of one person being creative and the other person not being creative. It's a common misconception that I can't draw, so I'm not creative. I can't paint, and so I'm not creative. Painting and drawing have nothing to do with creativity, or rather, they don't equate to creativity. Right? You might be able to do really well in math. So math is all about problem solving, and that's creativity. You cannot be a scientist unless and until you're creative, right? So then pretty much everything around us, human evolution itself has been based on creativity. So in that sense, this forms the basis of pretty much everything that I do with regards to my work, because I'm trying to get people to believe that all of us are creative. It's sad that when you talk to a kid in LKG, they will think that they're the most creative in the world.
True.
You speak to that same kid when he or she reaches 12th grade, they don't even want to look at you if you're going to ask them to, draw something, or if you ask them the question, are you creative? So then, during the most formative years of your life, if you're going from believing that you're very creative to not wanting to have anything to do with creativity, that's a loss. That's a loss for yourself and the world at large. So I think that is the basis. We need to get people to understand that everybody is creative.
Super. And one last question. What would Aishwarya define creativity as? What's your definition of creativity?
Creativity is a way of living. Creativity is life. And the meaning of Maisha is life in Swahili. So
I feel blessed of people who realize that, right? Your life is very different after you acknowledge it. Okay. Super. Thank you so much, Aishwarya. It's wonderful, such an inspiring personality you are, and talking to you has widened my horizon. I like every answer that you've been giving, right? I'm thinking in my mind, oh my God, this is exactly what I thought. It was an amazing interview, and I loved it. Thank you so much. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you, Aishwarya, for the wonderful
thank you.
Information that you gave.
Thank you so much. I think it's wonderful that we're able to connect on so many common areas, right?
And this is the first time we're meeting.
Yeah.